Welcome to another episode of Green and White. Today we're visiting Rakai's breathtaking gardens in Waikino. As an accomplished artist, her gardens are being affected by her creative flair in every corner of the property, which is also being run as a very popular Airbnb getaway. Gardens are a major for guests, which offer vibrant and colorful retreat. Although Rakai lives in Auckland, but she frequently travels to Waikino to lovingly care for the garden, making sure they always looking their best. Let's explore the artistry and dedication that makes this place truly extraordinary.
Kia ora. My name is Rakai and I am retired. I have been a teacher in my later life, and then I retired from that, and I sold a property in Auckland, and I was able to look further afield so that our family could escape now and then, and I found this property. And that was 10 years ago. So when I bought it, it had the house plopped right in the middle, and then the slope at the front, and a kind of terraced area down to the road at the back. There was a bit of a border of agapanthus and a few trees, but not much of a manicured garden. Not that I can say my garden is manicured, but I think, because the property was so big, the thought of putting in a big garden must have been daunting to the previous owners. Anyway, when I came here, um, had just retired, so I needed a property that could pay its way. So there was a couple of sheds outside. One was a cattery and the other one was the previous owner's office, and we converted that into accommodation for holiday makers, and that enabled me to have a little bit of an income. And then we expanded a little by putting 2 more cabins on that were within the council allowance. And so now it over the summer period, it is used quite a lot by holiday makers. My background, well, when I married, I was in business with my husband. He was into different sort of small businesses like a dairy, and then we had a wrecking yard and tyre shops. And I think I was approaching 50, and I decided, well, actually, I'd like to learn art. So I went to a local art group and actually found that I did have an ability to make work that I was proud of. So I pursued that, and then I did an art degree, and when that finished I had a debt. So I decided to do a teaching degree. And that's where I became an art and technology teacher. And for 10 years, until I was 65, I was a teacher. Well, initially that painting was inspired by growth and greenery and the pastel colours in the garden. At the moment, most of my artwork is abstracted from what I see, and the meaning and visuals that the person looking at it might get from it is really up to their own interpretation. I don't really have a favourite area in the garden. I think I like it all, and different times of the year, of course, some areas are just so beautiful. Even in the winter, when certain things are dying, the trees are turning red and gold and amber, and the leaves are falling everywhere, and you think, oh, compost. That's a great time as well. And of course, when everything is in full bloom, you can't help but fall in love with your garden again. And even when if you look around, things are flopping here and there and are looking a bit untidy. Well, that's just the story of life. How some things start, and they're tender and they're young, and then they grow and they're full and blousy and bold, and then they reach maturity and old age, and then they start to die. That's just a lesson in life. And anyway, I just want to say that I was actually brought up on a market garden, and I was number 5 of 7 children. So I wasn't one of the kids that was needed to make decisions or do anything. We were just the worker bees, and we had to plant and weed and water and harvest, and I actually hated it. I didn't like it at all. I was the artful dodger of the family. But unbeknownst to me, I think I learnt that, the soil is part of us. It's part of you. It's full of chemicals and organisms, and the way human beings are. I didn't know I was learning that, but I sort of am aware of it now that I'm older and think a bit more. And so that has probably laid the foundation to why I now garden. When I'm here and there's a lot of work to be done in the garden and I feel lazy, well, I don't go out. Other times I can spend a whole day out in the garden and really make myself overtired. Because the joy of, um, just being out there, time just drifts by. You don't even worry about it. I guess it's something that I don't really think about and justify. Because I'm retired, I don't have to go to work or be elsewhere. I mean, the difficulty is that I do need to be with family as well, and they're not always here. Sometimes I will leave reluctantly. Sometimes I will think, oh, yes, I've had enough of this hard work, and I will quite happily go. I have got 4, what do you call them, invasive plants in the garden. And there's, I don't wage great war against them, because I'm never going to win. There's one area where I just kind of try to contain it and let them do their thing. It's Wandering Willie. wandering Jew, they call it. That sounds awful to say nowadays, but that's what it's called. And that is pretty rampant in some areas. There's the clover, and there's a couple of other plants which I don't know the name of, and then there's the Japanese anemone, and they're beautiful. I actually don't mind the flowers, but I can see them just encroaching everywhere. Well, gardening makes me spend my money, and it can get out of hand, and it does get out of hand. But you can counter that by propagating your own plants, growing from seed. I don't have great success in that, but this is the climate here is really wonderful for allowing things to grow. The placenta of two of my grandchildren are planted, one under the walnut tree and one under a little shrub down there. And this area here is my youngest daughter lost her baby at 20 weeks, and she is buried in this little garden. So this is a very special garden for us. That statue over there is my other granddaughter. It was based on her. The sculptor took a picture of her, and she was sitting there with her very curly hair, and I think she was having a hissy fit. But it's a very lovely sculpture that he's done of her, and when I heard about that, well, I just had to have it and put it in my garden. So I'm probably, the children now, although they're not gardeners, all of my children are not the kind of gardener I am. I'm probably leaving them a great big headache because of our family connection to the actual whenua. I don't know that they would ever want to not be here and be able to visit here. But would they want to look after this big garden? I'm not sure. When I have guests come and stay in my cabins, yes, they are, they are very attracted by the garden. They've got a lot of complimentary comments to make about the garden. You can tell gardeners too, because they will name plants that I have no idea what the name is, and some even give me advice about the plants. In my information sheet, I do say that you're allowed to pull out delinquent weeds if you want to wander around the garden. So if they want, and I do encourage them to wander around too. And yeah, I think it is attractive for them. I wouldn't be without my garden, but there is an end to it. I mean, I'm 75. If you see my garden, you'll see how big it is. You'll see how unstructured it is. You'll see how plants are just plonked everywhere. And then there's a lot of kind of bringing things back into, not into line, but into a state where the plants I've put close together need to be tended so that they have more chance of growing properly. And that's the kind of work that I've made for myself, is being rather thoughtless in where I've put stuff. And so, I wouldn't be without the garden. I wouldn't be without these complications, because that's the way I am in my garden. But I know that, other gardeners can grow stuff or grow a garden like this and make it so that it's easier to manage. But somehow or other, that thought is not in my head when I have a whole bunch of plants that I want to put in the garden. I'll just put them in and then find that it's actually created a bit more work for me when I have to, cull it and to make them happier where I've put them. So this is my art studio. You know, a lot of people who make art get very embarrassed about calling themselves artists. But I have to get over that because I make art. So why shouldn't I be an artist? Just the same as I'm a cook, I'm a gardener, and a lot of other things. So this is my studio. I want to make it functional and pretty. So I'm just doing the last minute touch-ups to it, and then I will call upon the men in my life to come and arrange the heavy table and whatnot so I can get going. I like to continue to make art. When I became an art teacher, it sort of opened up a whole new energy towards making art myself. And, you know, just the colours of the garden, the shapes of the different things growing, the beautiful different flowers and the movement of the weather through the garden. It does inspire me to go and make work. But I'm not a realist. I'm more abstract, what I see and what I feel about the garden. And the inspiration just never ends. Not only my own garden, but, you know, in nature, even in the karangahake and the gorge, other people's gardens. You know, nature is just full of wonder, and if you want to use it as your inspiration for creativity, it never ends.